Hello friends, welcome back to Pour Over Books. I have my pour over, I have my books. Let's talk about some autumn favorites. The way we're doing it today is I am going to tell you all a bit about all of my autumn favorites, and it's a lot of them. I'm going to be ranking them from cozy to creepy, and that way I'm sure you can find something that works for you to get into the spirit of the autumn season. Honestly, personally, I'm not that big of like a Halloween fan. I like the decorations. I like watching horror movies. I like reading horror books. But like Halloween as a concept is not my thing, which is so funny. I don't care about dressing up. I eat candy when I want to, but I do enjoy a good skull. So I take what I can get out of the spooky season. Starting at most cozy and least creepy is Becky Chambers' A Psalm for the Wild-Built. This book is so beautiful. It made me cry. And for me, it's like the perfect autumn cozy read. Ideal for when you just want to curl up and read a soft book, light some candles, drink some tea. A Psalm for the Wild-Built, if you don't know, is about a tea monk who is struggling to find purpose in his life, and so he decides to travel into the wilderness. And there he meets the first robot that humanity has run into in like thousands of years. It is like a post-apocalyptic solar punk sci-fi. It talks a lot about humanity and what it means to have needs, and also it's just really cute. Again, made me cry. On a slightly more spooky note, but still as cozy, Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. I could put anything of Agatha Christie's on this list and it would be perfect. I love Agatha Christie. I grew up watching the TV series with David Suchet. I love Christie's writing. It has its faults, but they're also just like cozy mysteries. I love a good cozy mystery. I feel like Agatha Christie is like queen of cozy mysteries. And this one in particular is probably my favorite of them all, next to Peril at End House, because I love Peril at End House. Murder of Roger Ackroyd is slightly different in that it doesn't have Hastings as the narrator, it has another guy. It also has one of the best plot twists of all the Poirot books. Basically, Poirot moves out to the English countryside because he has retired, and then he stumbles headfirst into a murder mystery. And we love it. Fantastic. Great job. Still on the cozy end of the spectrum, we have Fangs by Sarah Anderson. Now this is a graphic novel. I believe it started out as a webcomic, and it's just about a vampire and a werewolf, and they are in love. It is super cute. I love it. The drawings, the art is adorable. Read it if you can. Moving towards slightly more spooky, Amy McKay's The Witches of New York. Now this one's still fairly cozy. It's about these three witches who live in New York and the things that they stumble into. There are ghosts, mysterious powers, there's a mysterious figure that keeps showing up, spells, recipes, tea, potions, also lesbians. What is not to love about this? Then comes Dead Collection, still cozy, a little creepy, and a lot of autumn vibes. I've recently just did a full review of this book. Go back and watch that if you want to know more about it. We have vampires, we have an archive that may or may not be haunted, and we have a romance, and we have a whole lot of queerness. Big fall vibes. I love this book. It is one of my favorite reads this year. I might reread it soon because it's just like the autumn vibes are real. Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour is slightly more creepy than Dead Collections, but also slightly less scary. Not sure if that makes sense. This is a coming-of-age contemporary novel about a girl who leaves her foster parents behind and moves to a farm where she is haunted by ghosts from her past. I love Nina LaCour's writing. This is a really good emotional read, and the ghost parts are so good. This is the first and only V.E. Schwab book that I've read. Gallant was good. It was fine. It really hits on the horror though. The main character can see ghosts, but they're not really ghosts, they're more ghouls, so she can see just like floating body parts, which was described really well. And then she gets a letter from her long lost uncle telling her to come to this house that her mother has strictly told her not to go to, but in the end she goes because that's the only family she has left. And when she arrives, she learns that no one at the house sent her this letter. The spooks are there. Definitely for a younger audience than me. I would call this one middle grade to YA. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't for me, which is fine. Definitely has the spooks. It definitely has the family vibe, haunted manor. What's not to love? I say that as someone who didn't love it, but give it a grain of salt. Ava Reed's The Wolf and the Woodsman might not qualify as an autumn read or a spooky read for some people, but I put it basically in the middle of the pile between cozy and creepy, because there is one scene with one monster that freaks me out, and it is so good, and I think about it a lot because the monster is so good. This is a book about a wolf girl called Evike, and she gets taken away by one of the woodsmen so she can go to the main city and use her magic for the king. Little do the woodsmen know that she doesn't have any magic, and everything unravels from there. This is a YA fantasy. It has some really good creepy vibes. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very fall vibes to me. Maybe it's the cover. Good anyways. This is the only nonfiction on this list. Dark Archives by Megan Rosenblum is about books bound in human skin. I am obsessed with this book, and I'm obsessed with the books that this book is about. I have this huge fascination with books that are bound in human skin. You would think that would be creepy and weird, and that the books that were bound in human skin are creepy and weird. But according to this book, they are not, and they are just the most normal books, like poetry books and anatomy books, and that's it. I loved this book so much. It took me for a ride, and I'm obsessed with it. I'm so glad I read this book. Put it basically halfway between creepy and cozy, because the concept is creepy, but mostly it's just a fun book to read. We're coming in on the more creepy end of things. The Swallows by Lisa Lutz is not horror per se, but it's also about the horrifying things that teenage boys are capable of, which is a lot. This is a book about an English teacher who moves to a new school and the things that she discovers there. It is a book about a group of teenage girls who decide to take revenge for what the boys have done to them. And to fully understand why I love this book, I will read you the last line of the blurb. Lisa Lutz's blistering, timely tale of revenge and disruption shows us what can happen when silence wins out over decency for too long, and why the scariest threat of all might be the idea that sooner or later, girls will be girls. Gives me shivers every time. As you might have picked up, I love angry women. Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danford is a weird book. I am still not sure if I understand this one. I originally read it because it was gorgeous, and I'm really not sure what to feel about it. The inside has like all these gorgeous illustrations. There's so much to love, but it's also so weird. Basically, it's a story within a story within a story. There are like so many plots in this book. There is a plot about two young girls at a boarding school in like the 1800s, and then there is a story about the young girl's teachers slash headmistress, and then there is a story about 3 modern day women playing these girls as actors in a movie, but mostly it's a story about the boarding school and the things that haunt the boarding school. If you are afraid of insects, do not read this book. There are wasps are yellow jackets, and there are so many of them, and since I read this book, I have been terrified of yellow jackets. It's queer, it has a bunch of lesbians, a couple of bisexual characters. There were so many good things about this book, and I'm still not sure how to feel about it. But if you want a good queer, weird horror, Plain Bad Heroines is for you. One of the spookiest books I've ever read, Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. Can't call this one scary, but it's definitely spooky. It has the gothic vibes. We're once again talking boarding school. I might have a thing for boarding school horrors. Creepy boarding school. A girl who's just trying to sort of find her place in the world, and then things get weirder and weirder and weirder and more cult-like. That's all I'm gonna say about this one. I love this book. That's it. The Devouring Grey by Charlie Lynn Herman is a great YA horror about a small town and the creature that lives in the town. There are 4 founding families, there is magic, friendship, and animosity, and it's fantastic. It is great. It is one of the many books that my wife has made me read, and is one of the many books that I have loved, and also it's pink. Love this book. And now we're up on like the proper horror. Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Cobb. This cover freaks me out. I can't really look at it too much, because if I look at it too much, I have to think about it, and it freaks me out. A friend group stays in a haunted house overnight, and they unearth things about the house and about their friend group, and things go terribly awry. There is gore, there is horror, there is weird character relationships, just like a good horror read. Comfort Me With Apples by Catherine and Valente is probably the one book on this list that sort of creeped me out the most. Would probably be, for a lot of people, be listed as less scary than Nothing But Blackened Teeth, but this one just like scares me so much. It is a book that is very much not what it seems. It is about a woman and her husband who lives in the suburb, and things are sort of weird. We follow the wife. She becomes more and more aware that the house that they live in and that the life that they have wasn't built for her. She keeps finding little clues that someone has been there before her, but all she wants to do is be a perfect wife for her husband. And they live this seemingly perfect life, but things are also wrong in a way that she cannot put her finger on. And it creeps me out so much. My wife was talking about how this is a good play on the monster coming from inside the house, like the babysitter kind of trope. If you want to lose your mind, this book is it. Last on the list, and highest creep factor, it's Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This book scares me so much. This was one of the first proper horror books that I actually read. I read it with my wife, and I just jumped into the deep end, apparently, because few things have scared me as much as this. It has been compared to Jurassic Park in a lot of ways, in that it's very scientific horror. It's basically about a research ship that travels out to the Mariana Trench to try to discover what happened to a ship that went missing. Killer mermaids is basically all I have to say. Killer mermaids. The horror in this book is so intense, keeps you at the edge of your seat. I listened to it on audiobook, which I thought was a great choice, because the audiobook goes hard, it goes intense. I also have a wife who had read it before me, and on the suspenseful scenes would, without telling me, increase the speed. So where we were originally listening to the book at 1.5, at the most suspenseful scenes we would listen to it at 2 times the speed. And it was very stressful. I'm not sure how I survived it. Would not do that again. But if you really want to get spooked, specifically by the ocean, read Into the Drowning Deep. That's all my autumnal reads from now. What are your autumn favorites? What are your favorite creepy books? What are your favorite cozy books? Have you read any of the books on my list, and do you agree or disagree with my rating of them in terms of cozy to creepy? Please let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. And I hope that the rest of your autumn is as creepy or as cozy as you want it to be. I will see you guys around. Bye!